Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Data Chat Live. I am Cameron Cowan, your host, and with me, as always, from lovely London is Mike Fong. Say hello to everybody, Mike.
Hello, everybody. Mike. Good morning, Cameron.
Is London, in fact, lovely this morning or this afternoon?
No, we're having some inclement weather. It's your standard kind of Dickensian, grey, rainy, smoggy London.
Okay.
And I hear you're having a few issues yourself.
Yeah, we've got you beat. We had a severe winter weather warning from the National Weather Service here in Utah. So the entire company, no one came into the office. This is actually my first Data Chat Live from my home office, not there in our Pleasant Grove offices. So we'll see how this goes. If at any point in time I flicker or go out altogether, you'll know that the weather blew me over, and you can just run with it from there. Now, it's been a couple of months since we last chatted, Mike. I know we had the IAPP joint webinar last month, and I think the last time we chatted on Data Chat Live was just going into the holidays. Anything new or exciting happening in your life recently?
Well, I did recently get married, so
Yeah, you
that's
did.
quite.
Congratulations.
Thank
And
you very
how's
much.
life as an old married man now?
It's getting there, getting old. No, it's great. It's the greatest feeling, and I would recommend it to anyone who thinks that maybe they're just maybe cohabiting or just living together. And I think marriage is. It's not that I'm a traditionalist. I just think it's a very nice statement and action for your commitment to each other.
Awesome. Well, we
But
couldn't
apparently
be.
there are tax benefits too.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
I haven't found any yet. I'll keep you posted.
Well, we are excited today to bring in our special guest. We have, if I can advance my slides here, let's try that again. Dave Smith, the ObservePoint CTO. Say hello to everyone, Dave.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Cameron. Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on.
Welcome.
We wanted to bring Dave on for a couple of reasons, actually. One, Dave's just wrapping up his first 90 days as CTO here at ObservePoint, so we thought it was a good opportunity to introduce you to our audience. But also today, we wanted to get a little bit into the weeds, as it were, when it comes to a little bit more of a technical discussion and talking about cookies. So for those of you that joined, I think we have a range of people, from marketers that know just a little bit, all the way to some really heavy analysts and devs that know all about cookies. We are going to try to go A to Z. So we're going to start off a little bit high level, but hopefully dig in and offer some really meaningful insights and things we've learned recently when it comes to the cookie landscape. Before we do that, Dave, rather than me giving you a full introduction, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to the audience. Where did you come from before ObservePoint? How did you get here in your career? And what are you excited about after your first 90 days here on the job?
Hey, thanks, Cameron. I'll take a minute and introduce myself. And while I'm introducing myself, can you take a look at the slides? It looks like they might not be showing on the screen for us. I joined ObservePoint as CTO a little over 90 days ago. I've been working on the web platform as a software engineer and various capacities in software development for about 25 years, depending on how you count. Most recently, I was the head of engineering from a telemedicine company where we built software that allows doctors and patients to connect with each other. Fantastic industry, very interesting problem space. I joined ObservePoint because I love the web and I love helping companies manage their websites better, because it is a complex landscape that has evolved a lot over the last 25 years. It's hard to keep up with. To me, it's exciting and fun. And I think ObservePoint is one of the best tools that anyone who runs a website can use to make sure they stay on top of these technology trends. Just a little bit more about me. I spent 4 years leading engineering teams at Amazon, where we worked on the Alexa project, which was a phenomenally exciting experience to build the world's first voice assistant AI. Prior to that, I worked at several different SaaS companies building software on the web for companies in various roles, from HR to telecommunications, and even in the government sector for a few years. So quite a varied career over the last 25 years. And I'm just excited to be here. ObservePoint, I think it has an awesome product, and frankly, I mean, and just to segue into cookies, one of the things I love to talk about is cookies, because they are so complicated and so easy to misunderstand. And at ObservePoint, our goal is to make that as simple as possible for you to manage, so you don't have to become a cookie nerd, but you can still understand what's going on. Yes, you don't have to be like
a cookie
me.
nerd, Dave. Is that where you're at?
I'm afraid that might be correct.
Okay, well, let's dive in on that then. I mean, we want to start everybody off with kind of the same baseline. Rather than A to Z, I'm going to jump past A and B, go straight to C. I have been incredibly informed C is for cookie. So why don't you just give the audience a little introduction? What are cookies? How do they function? What do they do in our web browsing experiences?
Sure. So nobody knows really why they're called cookies. So let's just get that out of the way. I've tried to do some historical research on this, and the reality is anyone who tells you they know, they don't actually know. This name goes way back. But let's talk about what they actually are. So a cookie is solving a problem. And the problem that it's solving is that websites want to identify return visitors so that when you come back to a site, the website knows who you are when you come back. The way they do that is websites give you these persistent pieces of information when you visit called a cookie, and your browser stores that cookie on your computer. Let me tell you some use cases that cookies enable. Shopping carts. Probably the first use case ever on the web was shopping carts. Your cookie tells you, hey, my shopping cart ID is 123. And then the website will know, okay, well, I know what products are in shopping cart 123. Here they are. Logins. If you want to log into a website, cookies were the first way that was done. Even configuration and preferences, like, hey, I want this website to know that my chosen language is Dutch. And so every time I visit that website, it doesn't have to re-ask me, what language do you want me to display the text in? It just knows because I have a cookie that my browser gives to the website every time. So what is a cookie actually? A cookie is a little piece of information that the website gives to your browser when you visit the site. The browser stores that information on your hard drive until it expires. Later, when you return to that site, the web browser, when it requests a page from the site, it sends that information from your computer's hard drive to the website on your behalf. So what do they actually look like? At their core, a cookie is a name value pair. And it has a bunch of metadata too, but every cookie has a name and a value. And these are just pieces of text. The values can be short, like a number, like the number 1, or they can be long, like a long identifier. They have metadata like expiration dates, and there's about a half a dozen other technical settings that go along with a cookie to govern things like its security policy, what kinds of requests are allowed to see this cookie, and so on and so forth. I won't go into those right now. So you might ask yourself, well, if a cookie is a piece of information that my browser receives from a website and is stored on my hard drive, how many do I have right now? And I think if I were to just quiz you, Cameron and Mike, I'll put you on the spot. How many cookies do you think your computer has on it right now from your browser?
Oh, geez. Mike, any good guess on that? I mean,
it's a large number. I don't know. Let's say 100. That's my random guess, right?
I certainly haven't cleared my cookies in months, if not years. So I'm going to say, we'll call it an even 1,000.
Yeah, these are decent guesses. So I pulled up my cookie settings in my Chrome browser this morning. I've been using this browser for 90 days. It's a new browser.
Okay.
And I have 2,351 cookies on my computer right now.
Wow.
So this tells you cookies are everywhere, and almost every website uses them. So that's my intro about what is a cookie.
Awesome. And it looks like we have somebody commenting in the chat. One of the origin stories, and I tried to look it up, and I think I found about 6 different origin stories. The idea of it being named after Magic Cookie, which was derived from Fortune Cookie, which is a cookie with an embedded message. I like that one a lot because
yes, that one appeals to me as well. But it is mythology, not fact, and it goes back to the Unix in the 70s. In fact, this term Magic Cookie. But as far as I can tell, no one knows where the term Magic Cookie itself came from. I love the Fortune Cookie metaphor. I think it's great.
It's just like in networking, they have a message bus, right? Which is literally, you can see information as passengers and the message bus as the thing carrying the information.
Yes,
Which I
software
find-
developers
there's lots of
love,
these.
they just love weird metaphors.
Now, obviously, a lot of the uses you just described, Dave, were functional for whether it's personalization or allowing for a shopping cart and a good experience as somebody goes through a website, to serve a purpose, to remember settings. There was an introduction of a very large advertising space. I'm going to say circa 2001, 2002. There existed advertising ecosystems before that, but it wasn't really until Google took off, and a lot of the programmatic display advertising platforms came about as well, that cookies really started to be using heavily, not for those first party on the website experiences, but in third party context. So to give everybody that baseline, what is the difference between a first party cookie and a third party cookie?
Yes, and this is where modern websites really need to pay attention, because first-party cookies are widely considered to be just fine from regulatory perspective. And Cameron, you're the expert on this, but first-party cookies, they tend to serve your customers to do the thing the customer came for you to do in the first place. Third-party cookies are a little bit of a different thing. Third-party cookies are used, like you mentioned, to identify users across websites. So that, well, whereas previously when I said, hey, look, if I have a cookie and I return to your website, you can know that it's me who previously came to your website. Well, with third-party cookies, this enables websites to know that you're someone, even if it's the first time coming to this website, they enable that website to know information about other places you've been and a profile about you. And so you could be, like I said, showing up at a website for the very first time, but thanks to third-party cookies, that website is capable of knowing things about you that you might be surprised to find that they can know. And that is by virtue of some of these advertising networks and other tracking networks that exist throughout the web. And the way this works is that browsers actually will refuse to allow a page to set a cookie that can be shared across any website. But there are ways around that, which many, many websites do. In fact, as we've looked at most of the Fortune 500 United States websites, and we've seen that probably 95% of them use third-party cookies to track their users. It's very common. Any website, and they don't even do this necessarily maliciously to track people. They do it just by a side effect of participating in various advertising networks. For example, if you put a Twitter widget on your page, you're going to get Twitter cookies. And that Twitter widget is going to know who you are because you've got a Twitter cookie because you're logged into Twitter. And the way that works is the page itself is served by the website domain. Okay, fine, that's normal. Probably includes some first-party cookies. But then that page will load JavaScript. And that JavaScript can execute in your browser and can make requests to third-party domains like twitter.com, like linkedin.com, like Google advertising services, like analytics tracking services like Adobe Analytics, Google Analytics, and others. And those websites will receive the cookies that have already been set, even that belong to those domains. So, I could be going to like website.a.com, and it will be running JavaScript that invokes a LinkedIn.com request. And that LinkedIn.com request your browser is going to dutifully send all the cookies that you have for LinkedIn.com to that request. But it knows you're coming from website.a.com. Mm-hmm. So that's what a third-party cookie is. And that cookie will follow you. It will stay with you because, again, your browser's storing it on its hard drive, right? And so anytime you go to one of these websites and it makes these third-party HTTP requests, the cookies go along with them.
So on a purely definitional basis, a third-party cookie is a cookie with a domain that is not the same domain as the website you're currently on. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And that's one of those, just real quickly on that, I mentioned that there are some technical metadata associated with every cookie. One of those pieces of metadata is called domain. And the domain is a special instruction that tells your browser, hey, browser, this cookie belongs to, say, twitter.com. Your browser then has an agreement with the World Wide Web as a general entity. Anytime your browser goes to twitter.com, it will look at all of the cookies that it currently has on your computer that have a domain of twitter.com. And it will send those with all the requests that it makes to twitter.com. That's how that works.
Awesome. Now we're getting beyond just the ABCs, which I like it. So a little bit more intermediate. You said there's other metadata. Obviously, there's a cookie name and there's the domain it's coming from, so you can determine if it's first or third party. What are some of those other metadata points that we have and that people should be at least paying attention to?
Yeah, there's probably two that I think are the most interesting that you should pay attention to. One of them is called the secure flag. So when you see a cookie, it'll have a secure setting, and that'll be on or off. Now, this doesn't mean that the cookie itself is secure or insecure. What it means is that a secure cookie, your browser will only send it to a domain if your browser is using HTTPS, which if you look up in the address bar, you'll see the little lock icon. That's what that means, is that you are using an HTTPS, which means an SSL or encrypted channel for communicating with that website. And cookies that are marked as secure, if you then, like, let's say you've got a cookie for LinkedIn.com and it's marked as secure, but then you go to LinkedIn.com, but you're not using HTTPS, you're just using HTTP unencrypted, the browser will not send that cookie to LinkedIn.com because that cookie is marked as secure. And that's because typically it contains sensitive information, like some kind of user identifier or something that you wouldn't want to be snooped on the internet. And so it's a security mechanism to make sure that sensitive cookies only go to websites when you're using a secure channel. That's one.
Dave, is it, given that, the internet's pretty fast now, and a few years ago, Google made HTTPS the default protocol, would your personal recommendation be that all cookies should have that secure flag now?
Yeah, I believe that all cookies should have the secure flag. I really struggle to think of a use case where it would be important not to have that secure flag. I also believe, of course, that all web traffic should be done over HTTPS anyway. And so it's just a sane default. But rewinding the clock 10 years, the secure flag was very important because not all traffic was HTTPS by default.
Yeah. So you said that's the first
encryption and decryption is less costly these days.
Also true, Mike. Great point.
Now you said that's the first one. What's the other one you think people should be paying attention to?
The other one is called HTTP only, and this one is a little bit more technical to explain. But many cookies, you don't want JavaScript code to be able to look at their contents. And this is for security reasons. There's a whole class of security vulnerability called cross-site scripting that this flag helps prevent. But when you set HTTP only, it tells the browser, hey, browser, listen, don't let JavaScript read the contents of this cookie. Only send it in a network request. That's what HTTP only means, is that it only goes over an HTTP request. And that's another one you should be aware of. HTTP only is a common practice. And yep, as you can see in Observe Point, we will report both of these here. We should probably point out same site, which is another really useful one as well. Yeah. Same site is a little bit new. That's in the last 4 or 5 years. This one was introduced to prevent a category of security vulnerabilities called cross-site request forgery. And this is a great solution to block that kind of vulnerability as well. It used to be websites had to jump through all kinds of hoops to prevent cross-site request forgery attacks. Now with the same site feature, you can block those attacks at their source without having to do a bunch of extra sit-ups. So same site is another great one to use.
Yep. And then one other one I'll call out is most cookies have all cookies have some level of declared expiration, whether that's on the session that you're in currently, over the course of a specific number of hours or days or weeks or years. In fact, Mike, as I recall, in Europe, there's actually a specific prescription that cookies can't be longer than a certain duration. Am I remembering that correctly?
It rings a bell. It depends on the cookie type, I believe. Yeah.
So there's a lot of metadata in here. We're not going to spend a ton of time going through our tool, but cookies do have more information than just simply what's the cookie name and domain, and things people should be paying attention to and setting up some sort of proactive alert or monitoring so they know when they do have non-secure cookies, when they do have same site empty cookies. All important things. Okay, so we've kind of moved even beyond the intermediate to some of the more advanced. So we're getting closer to Z here. One of the
Cameron, just before you go on, sorry to interrupt, we've got quite a few questions in the chat requesting kind of more detail and saying they wish we'd prepared a visual, which is kind of making me wish that we'd prepared a visual as well. Dave, would you be willing to sign up to almost providing a glossary or a cheat sheet to everyone who afterwards, for everyone who's signed up and is attending our session, and we can send that out to our users and our audience?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Sure thing.
We haven't got enough time for you to tell us about cross-site request forgery.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yes, and also we will be doing a demo here in a couple of minutes that will show some of these questions will be answered.
Yeah, and let's jump over to that part of the discussion now. Obviously, for us, one of the main reasons we're concerned about continuous monitoring of cookies on our customers' websites is for compliance, not only with the way the cookie should be collecting data, but actually regulatory compliance, whether that be GDPR over in Europe, whether it's the new laws that have gone into effect here in the United States with, what is it, California and Virginia last month. We've got Colorado and Connecticut coming online mid-year, and our home state here in Utah, end of the year. There's going to be more. Cookies seem to have gotten the bulk of the attention, even though I don't think they're necessarily the only thing we should be worried about. In fact, Mike, you were commenting to me that even if cookies went away completely, which I don't think any of us believe they will imminently, is cookies mentioned specifically in GDPR, or are there other types of measurement that's also a concern under that legislation?
Well, in GDPR, they explicitly state cookies and cookie-like technologies.
Cookie-like.
So at Observe Point, we're currently seeing that to mean cookies, but also things like tracking pixels, like Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics or anything like that. However, the term cookie-like technologies is itself very vague, and that's left each country's interpretation of that open, and the way they've legislated also open. So there are some organizations taking things server-side, in the theory that first-party server-side calls, or the first call to the server is first-party, and then everything else, therefore, is kind of more protected. But again, that is still, people are still using that as a form of building their audiences, understanding customer behavior. So does that count as cookie-like technologies? It's a difficult one. It's vague legislation. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I'm of the belief that analysts and marketers are like water. They will always find a way to get down the hill, even if they have to take a very circuitous route. So we get rid of cookies tomorrow, they're going to find other methods. We know that people use fingerprinting. We know they use local storage. So there's a lot of tracking type behaviors that we need to be paying attention to. Dave, I want to make sure we give you enough time to run through this, because you had a couple of things you want to actually walk through in a demo and talk about how you can understand what cookies exist on your browser and making sure you're getting a good representation of are you in compliance based on however your company is determined compliance looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. The question of compliance, I'm sure, is on a lot of people's minds. And if it's not, it needs to be, and it will be soon for you if you manage a web property. So let's jump in here. At Observe Point, our job is to help our customers get to a state of compliance with the privacy regulations, and cookie governance is a big part of that. We see a lot of websites at Observe Point. And what I can tell you unquestioningly is that the vast majority of websites have some room for improvement here on complying with the cookie and privacy regulations. I'm going to show you today a website that is doing it right, so you can see what good looks like. But trust me, it's very easy to find websites that are doing it wrong. So what I'm going to do here is share my screen. I am going to share with you a Google Chrome browser. Let me know in the chat if you can see that okay.
Yep.
So this is a blank slate browser. It has no cookies at all in it. In fact, I'm just going to show you that by clicking on the three dots and then going to settings. And I'm going to go to privacy and security. And then I'm going to scroll down and click on cookies and other site data. And then I'm going to scroll down to see all site data and permissions. When I click here, you can see total storage used by sites is 0 bytes. Great. I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to go to a website for onetrust.com. OneTrust is a company that works in the compliance space and just happens to be a great example of how to do cookie governance correctly. Now, all I've done is visited this site, but I want to show you what that did to my cookies. I'm going to go back to my settings page we were looking at before. And previously it said we have 0 bytes of storage used by sites. Sites you will visit will appear here. I'm going to refresh this page now. So clicking refresh. Now you can see I have 2 cookies. One from cloudflare.com, which is a content distribution network and service that OneTrust must be using for things, and one cookie from onetrust.com. So this site has placed a cookie on my browser. Great. That's good. No problem. That's normal. Now look down here. They've got a cookie banner, which I'm sure you've seen. And I'm going to click on customize settings on this banner. And I'm going to allow these 3 different kinds of cookies to be written. So I'm going to click confirm my choices now, and I'm going to go back over to this page, and I'm just going to refresh the page now that I've updated my compliance settings. Now that I've done that, I'm coming into this site with a little bit of a different context. My context now coming into onetrust.com is, hey, I'm willing to accept your tracking cookies, functional cookies, and performance cookies. Now that I've done that, let me go back to my settings and refresh the page and see what I've got. Well, look at that. Now I've got third-party cookies. So you can see I have my original OneTrust cookie plus 9 more. I still have that same Cloudflare cookie that I had before. I have a demdex.net cookie. What's that? That is Adobe Audience Manager, right, Cameron?
Yep.
I have everesttech.net cookie as well. That's another Adobe. I think it's I can't remember which product.
The advertising platform.
That's right. Now I'm participating in ads, and I have 6 cookies from LinkedIn. So let's say I wanted to actually see what these cookie values are. Well, Chrome does not make this easy to do out of the box, but there are a few things you can do. One of them is you can click this lock icon, and then you can click on cookies, and you can scroll through here. Like I want to go down to LinkedIn, and I can actually expand it, and then I can click on cookies, and I can see the names. And if I click on the names, I can see the content. This one is bcookie. They've gone ahead and created a cookie with a name bcookie. It has a long identifier here that identifies me.
Dave, it looks like
just we can't see the pop-up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Apologies. Let me show you that a different way. There are multiple ways to see cookies, thankfully. One of them is by clicking that lock icon, and you can drill in there. But that's only going to show you cookies that have been active on the site. I prefer to see all the cookies that are on my browser across all sites. And one way to do that is by installing a Chrome extension. This is by no way an endorsement, but there is a third-party Chrome extension called Awesome Cookie Manager. You are welcome to use it or not use it. I will not endorse or unendorse it. But I've got that installed now, and I'm going to click on that. And it will show you all the cookies that are on your computer at this time. And if you look here on LinkedIn, I've got 4 or 5, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cookies from LinkedIn. One of them is called bcookie. When I click on that, you can see that it's got this long identifier text that identifies me. If I were to go visit LinkedIn right now, you would see that my browser sends this cookie to LinkedIn. So now LinkedIn will know that I had come from OneTrust because they have this cookie telling it that. So this is what happens when you opt in to cookies. Now let me show you, I already kind of showed you what happens when you opt out. This site happens to be opted out by default. Not all sites are like that. And maybe, I don't know, Cameron, if you want to pivot to that topic of opted in versus opted out by default, that can get a little time consuming.
Yeah, I think just from a very high level, the standard in general here in the United States is you get opted in by default on most websites, and it's only when you choose to opt out do they then stop either tracking you or at least allowing your data to be shared and sold to other platforms. In Europe, it's the exact opposite. The default should be an opt out by default, and you only get opted in if you explicitly give that consent.
That's right. So let me wrap up this demo with one more thing to show. So recall now, I do have all these cookies on my computer, and if I refresh, you can see they're still here. I'm going to go back to OneTrust, and I'm going to click on their little cookie icon down here on the bottom left, and I'm going to say, hey, look, I actually don't want to be tracked anymore. So I'm going to uncheck all 3 of those types of cookies, and I'm going to confirm, and then I'm going to refresh this page. Now, after refreshing this page, what would you expect to see back here in my cookie settings when I refresh? Would you expect these cookies to disappear, or would they still be here? Let me know in the chat what you think will happen. I'll give you just a few seconds to say they should remain or they should be gone. Yes, Rebecca, nailed it. Nailed it. All of you, good job. That's right. And that's because there actually is no mechanism on the web for a company to go and delete third-party cookies that belong to some other website. That just doesn't exist. So you cannot be untracked once you've been tracked. And so what these compliance management platforms are buying you is the ability to stop being tracked from this point forward. And so what this means is that if I were to go in here and delete, for example, this LinkedIn cookies and my advertising cookies and my audience manager cookies, and then go back to OneTrust and now navigate around this page, now if I go back and refresh, those cookies will not come back. but they stay on your computer until their expiration date. So that's the demo. To answer the question in the chat earlier, this Chrome extension will tell you how many cookies you have on your computer. Right now, this browser has 12. And if you want to know how many you have, you can install that extension and it'll tell you your number. My number was over 2,000 this morning on my personal browser.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. And Mike, I know you were eager to show something to the audience. I'll let you cue that up. But as we look at this challenge of how do we continuously monitor websites and understand what that zero state is, not just what I hit a website, all those cookies load, and then what should it be going forward? We still got all those cookies remaining. So one of the things that ObservePoint has done, and if you're an existing customer, this will look familiar, is we've actually added a new feature in as you set up these actions to make sure we are going in and clearing those cookies. As Dave said, there's not a real good mechanism for websites to do that. So they simply say, from this point forward, I won't add anything new. We've actually added into our scanner the ability to clean that up as you run into that default opted in state. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, sure. So this is a very recent release from ObservePoint, and this exists in order to facilitate those friends and colleagues and clients of ours who are focused on the American market. So for example, CCPA requires companies to allow you to opt out, but it doesn't require the default situation to be opt out. And that means in order to check your websites are compliant, you need to be able to do exactly what Dave just showed us, which is to actually clear all the cookies and then run your audit from then on. So this is a really powerful, quick way to do that. But it's not just for that. There are also many other use cases. If there's anyone here listening who is part of maybe a CRO team, conversion rate optimization, there may be situations where your A/B test splits, say maybe an assumed 50-50 split, is not functioning as you would expect, and you're having difficulty checking it. Well, with this clear all cookies functionality, you can load the same experience 1,000 times and clear cookies every single time. Then you will see whether you're getting version A and version B 50% of the time, or whether, as a case we've already seen very recently, a 50% split was supposed to be the design, but it actually had a 90-10 split. And so ultimately that led to the A/B test collecting a large enough sample size at essentially 1/5 of the speed they expected. So this is a very powerful and brand new feature, which we're happy and delighted to bring to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. One question that's come up in the chat pod, Dave, maybe you're in a position to answer this. You said that the cookies are stored on your hard drive. Where are they stored is the question.
Great question. I was just typing a chat answer to that one. They are stored in a single file on your hard drive that is located in your user profile section, depending on whether you're in Mac or Windows. For Chrome, the file is simply called C cookies. And it is a format that's hard. You can't just read it with a text editor for two reasons. Number one, it's actually it's a miniature SQL database. You can actually query it with SQL commands, just like you could a regular SQL database. But the other reason it's hard to read is because the values of the cookies are actually encrypted. And so it's really not easy to go read this file. But if you know SQLite, that's the tool you can use to open the file and read it. And if you just go search Google, where does Chrome store my cookies? It'll tell you exactly where to go look for your operating system and your profile.
Fantastic. Thanks for answering that. All right, it looks like we're just a little past the bottom of the hour. So we want to get people on with their days. I did want to finish with one final question, and that is, I tend to see a lot in news and headlines and on blogosphere that cookies are dead. And I can't tell you, I don't think I go more than 2 days without seeing some sort of headline or some sort of webinar or some sort of session talking about a cookie-less future. Dave, love to get your perspective as far as, are we moving to a cookie-less future, or is that a bit of an overstatement? What do you see? How do you see this space developing over the next several years?
Yeah, so we hear this from time to time. My perspective is that first-party cookies are definitely not going to die, maybe ever. The question, though, is what about third-party cookies? And some browsers are already taking a pretty hard stand on third-party cookies, and they're saying we simply will not store or send third-party cookies under any circumstances. Most notably Apple with their mobile Safari browser, if not Safari desktop as well. But then companies like Google, who create the Chrome browser, which is by far the most popular browser on desktop. By the way, mobile Safari is among some of the most popular browsers on mobile, because it is a default browser for iPhone, and frankly, the only browser that Apple allows, even when you have other browsers that look like they might be on your phone, you're actually running Safari under the hood. That's by Apple policy. Sorry for that sidebar. But the question is, what about Google? So Google, with their Chrome browser, are they going to start banning third-party cookies? Google has been saying for years that they will. But every time the date comes around when they said they will, they push the date back. And right now they're saying that in the second half of 2024, they expect to block third-party cookies. So what does that mean for us if we're administering our own websites and we need to be compliant? Well, number one, it means that you've got a year and a half. Worst case scenario, you've got a year and a half of governance that you need to apply before Chrome will make third-party cookies be blocked by default. So that's a long time, and a lot can happen in the next year and a half in terms of compliance enforcement and regulations. So it's not a risk that I personally would want to take. I would go for maximum compliance if I was a website property owner. Second of all, Chrome has a little bit of a conflict of interest on this one.
Yeah, they do.
Chrome is created by one of the world's highest revenue advertisers on the planet, and the product that they sell is relevant targeted advertising. And if Chrome stops allowing third-party cookies, the advertisements that Google sells, which is their bread and butter revenue source, that product will go down in quality, because the ads you will get on the web, they won't go away, they'll just be less relevant. And so advertisers will pay less for them, and Google's revenue will go down. So we don't know what Google will do with that conflict of interest, whether they will err on the side of user privacy and reducing tracking, or will they err on the side of taking a stand that, hey, our product needs to be the best it can, and the only way our product can be the best it can is with third-party cookies. So to me, it's a big question mark about whether third-party cookies are ever going to go away.
Yeah. Mike, anything else that we have coming through on the chat that we want to make sure we answer?
The chat is exploding right now. Macy, let's run through a quick few questions, which saves me typing. Macy asks, do you, and I'm gonna aim all questions at Dave, because Dave is our new CTO and therefore the smartest guy in the room. Dave, from Macy Ray, do you anticipate a stronger trend towards leveraging zero-party and first-party data over third-party cookies in general, regardless of phase-out?
I think there's a good chance that will happen, yes. And the reason is because it is the safer compliance posture.
Thank you. Next question from Deb William. Assuming this call is for an hour, we're not going to be on for an hour, but let's keep going with the questions. Asking this question: when you clear your browser history, you do lose all first and third-party cookies, right?
That is correct. When you clear all of your browser data, not just your browsing history, but all the data, because most browsers allow you to clear specifically history, cookies, and other types of storage. There's a half a dozen different types. If you clear your cookies, that's first party and third party.
Thank you.
Is there any way to clear just third-party cookies, Dave? Or
I don't think so. Well, here's the thing: when you're looking at a browser settings window, there is no concept of first party or third party. They're all just cookies, and they have domains associated with them.
Right.
When you're looking at a certain website in your browser, now you have the concept of first party and third party, because first party is a cookie that belongs to the domain you're currently looking at. But when you're just managing all your data, there is no concept of first party, third party.
Lalia Rodriguez asks, does that mean that a Mac user doesn't have third-party cookies on their hard drive as long as they're using Safari?
This is a good question. I don't know the answer to this question because I'm not exactly sure if mobile Safari and desktop Safari behave differently. So let me just set that out there first and foremost. But second of all, the fact that Safari blocks third-party cookies does not mean you don't have third-party cookies on your hard drive. Let me explain what I mean by that. alluding just to a minute ago when I was saying, when you look at your hard drive and just look at all the cookies that are on there, there really is no concept of first party or third party. And that's because when I go to twitter.com, it will give me first party cookies for twitter.com, and I'll store them on my hard drive. When I go to linkedin.com, LinkedIn will give me first party linkedin.com cookies that I'll store on my hard drive. So then when I go look at my hard drive, I'm going to see twitter.com cookies and I'm going to see linkedin.com cookies. Are they third party cookies? You can't really tell because you don't know which website actually set them. If they were set by google.com, or by a script running on google.com, now that would be considered a third-party cookie, but that history is actually lost. So you will have on your website, on your hard drive, even if you use Safari, you will have cookies from lots of different domains.
Okay, great. Let's just have a look. Well, yeah, that is the last of the questions.
Awesome.
And yeah, loads of positive feedback. So thank you for all your feedback, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for keeping an eye on that for us, Mike. Dave, we really want to thank you for coming in. We love having you on the team, and your knowledge and insight in this area is phenomenal. Mike, if you want to share that last slide, just give the audience a heads up. We're all very excited to be back into a lot of in-person events this year.
Absolutely.
One of the bigger ones this year, if you're in the Adobe ecosystem, is Adobe Summit, to be held next month down in Las Vegas. We will be there full force with the Observe Point team. We have a booth. We're going to have a VIP happy hour. So if you want to join us for that, get a hold of pretty much anybody on the Observe Point team. Check us out on LinkedIn. All the links are available there. We'd love to have you swing by the booth or come and grab a drink and some light eats and just hang out. We love our partnership with Adobe, and we're looking forward to seeing all of you there here in a few weeks. And with that, on behalf of myself, on behalf of my co-pilot, Mike Fung, and our CTO, Dave Smith, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you on the next Data Chat Live.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.